Once the Prophet ﷺ was offering salat at the Kaaba, Abu Jahl was sitting with some of his companions. One of them said to the others, "Who amongst you will bring the abdominal contents, intestines of a camel of Bani so-and-so, whether it be the placenta, the inner linings of the stomach, the guts of a freshly butchered camel, or of a camel that just gave birth, the nasty, disgusting stuff inside of mammals, right? Okay, whether it's dead, whether they give birth, placenta, whatever you call it, salah jazur. Which one of you would take something nasty, disgusting, slimy, and throw it on top of him as he's making sajda, as a means of humiliation and disrespect? Who will do this? And put it on the back of Muhammad when he prostrates. The most unfortunate of them got up and brought it. He waited till the Prophet ﷺ prostrated and then placed it on his back between his shoulders. Ibn Mas'ud says, "I was watching but could not do anything. I had to experience this painful sight. I was too weak, whatever, to do anything, watching the Prophet ﷺ succumb to such humiliation. I wish I had some people with me to hold out against them." They started laughing and falling on one another like we do today, cracking up. Oh man, you see that? You start, like having a good time, making fun of the Prophet ﷺ. Allah's Messenger ﷺ was in prostration and he did not lift his head up till Fatima, and it says here, Mahad, Wallah it does. It says, alayha salam, the Prophet's daughter, came and threw that camel's abdominal contents away from his back. He raised his head and said thrice, "Oh Allah, punish Quraysh." So it was hard for Abu Jahl and his companions when the Prophet ﷺ invoked Allah against them, as they had a conviction that prayers and invocations were accepted in this city, in Mecca. They were scared. It was no longer a joke. It was no longer funny when the Prophet made dua against them. They, the mushrikun, realized that dua was accepted in that city, clearly refuting and rebuking the aqidah of all of those different groups spawned by kalam and the theological rhetoric, whether it's Ash'ari, Maturidi, or whatever. And those who label and name anyone that differs with them and sticks to the original organic text being a Wahhabi. One of the main points of difference and contesting between this group and that group, Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, his followers and his opponents and detractors, is that the mushrikun of Mecca were not ignorant nor oblivious to Allah. They knew Allah, they loved Allah, and they worshipped Allah. Their problem was that they made shirk with Allah. أَجَعَلَ الْآلِهَةَ إِلَهًا وَاحِدًا إِنَّ هَذَا لَشَيْءٌ عَجِيب. All gods, just one? There was never a time in which they did not believe in Allah in totality. They just totally rejected Allah. Nor did they believe that their gods and goddesses, idols and spirits, Manat, Lat, Uzza, takhluqu wa tarzuqu wa tudabbiru. They did not believe this, that they created things and that they sent down the rain and that they gave life and then they took life. They never believed that. So that is not the tawheed of Islam. It's not the tawheed that the Rasul ﷺ brought and the previous prophets and messengers came. La, they knew tawheed rububiyyah. They had deviation in tawheed rububiyyah, certain things. أَإِنَّا لَمَبْعُوثُونَ, will we be resurrected? They knew this, that they believed that they would just die and they wouldn't be brought back to resurrection. وَهُمْ يَكْفُرُونَ بِالرَّحْمَنِ, certain names of Allah, attributes of Allah, they didn't accept. They took Al-Mannan and turned into Manat, Al-Aziz and turned into Uzza, Al-Ilah and turned into Lat. وَذَرُوا الَّذِينَ يُلْحِدُونَ, they had deviation in asma wa sifat. They had deviation in aspects of rububiyyah. but they were not upon zero in rububiyyah. So that is not the tawheed, la qadira al-ikhtira' illallah. There is no one who can create but Allah. That is not the meaning of la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. It is not the core essence of tawheed, abadan. Hence, the people who make shirk, who call upon other than Allah, seek help in other than Allah, they're still Muslims because they believe la qadira al-ikhtira' illallah. Allah is the only one who is the most powerful and omnipotent, right? So that's be mindful of this. Why were they scared of someone that they didn't believe in? Why were they scared of Muhammad making dua against them if they had no belief in Allah whatsoever? So that is incorrect and that's inaccurate. Directly from Quran and Sunnah, not Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. They were scared. فَشَقَّ ذَلِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ. They were afraid because they had fear of Allah. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't pure. It became adulterated and distorted and warped. But they knew who Allah Azza wa Jal was and they respected the Kaaba. But they had bid'ah, they had innovations, they had superstitions. We made tawaf naked. We have to have middlemen between us and Allah. We're too dirty to call upon Allah. We're too sinful. There has to be intermediaries, etc. So this hadith, among countless others, I quote, countless others prove that Tawheed al-Rububiyyah was something that was established with the mushrikun of Mecca. Everybody clear on this. And this is not an invention of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. He didn't just wake up and just say, hey, that's not what Tawheed is supposed to be. All right, an idol, shirk is only the worship of an idol, that's it. Moving forward. So he raised his head and said thrice, O Allah, punish Quraysh. O Allah, punish Quraysh. Allahumma alayka bi Quraysh. O Allah, take revenge against them. Take a retribution against them. Torture them, destroy them. Alayka bi Quraysh. 3 times he said this. So it became hard and difficult. It was no longer funny for Abu Jahl and his companions when the Prophet ﷺ invoked who? Who did the Prophet invoke? Why were they scared of the Prophet calling on Allah if that doesn't what? That's just incoherent with common sense. For people who claim to be people of aql, strong, powerful aql, and that you guys are, simple-minded surface dwellers, like scum on the water, zahir, and that's it. That's all you know. But this aqidah is the aqidah of aql. That's a madhab of aql, of intellect, it's stimulating to the mind. Right? Madhab al-Salafi aslam, wa madhab al-Khalafi a'lam wa ahkam. The way of the Salaf is okay, it's safest. But the way of the later generations, a'lamu wa ahkamu. There's more knowledge, more science, is wiser. Right? So they claim to have aql, but when they're placed in front of clear, irrefutable things, where does the aql go? Where do their brains go? They go, where do they go? So they became afraid and scared when the Prophet ﷺ invoked Allah against them, as they had a conviction. They knew, kanu yarona, that prayers and invocations were accepted in this city. La uqsimu bihadha balad wa anta hillun bihadha balad wa walidin wa ma walad. They knew about Mecca. They had respect for Mecca. And obviously they knew about Mecca because of Ismail. And Ismail because of Ibrahim. And Ibrahim because of Allah Khalil ar-Rahman. So there were things that remained. There are things that remained from the pure way that they didn't get rid of 100%. The Prophet ﷺ said, O Allah, punish Abu Jahl, Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, Shaybah bin Rabi'ah, Al-Walid bin Utbah, Umayyah bin Khalaf, and Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt. And he mentioned the 7th, whose name I do not recall. And this is a faida with regards to Ibn Hadith, is that if anyone, there doesn't have to be the companion saying it, Ibn Mas'ud, it could be the narrator after the Sahabi. Alright? When someone says, I can't remember the last person, I can't remember the third person, proves that they clearly remembered So that's that's a mazid al-dabt. The person has good memory when they can clearly say, it was him, I don't remember the third one. Understand? I'm sure of these two, but the third, I don't, so I'm positive about the first two. Moving forward. By Allah, in whose hand my life is, I saw the dead bodies of those persons who were counted by Allah's Messenger ﷺ in one of the wells of Badr. Shortly afterwards, they were cut and chopped up and poked, sliced up, tossed into a well. After the battlefield, they were minced meat, as we would say, right? They were chopped down and just what? Get down. Shortly afterwards, the Prophet ﷺ's dua was accepted, and then they were destroyed.